Mount Daniel School opened its doors in February, becoming the first elementary school to be constructed after Falls Church formed an independent school division in 1949.
It was very exciting, and we wanted it because at that time our schools were not getting very much from the county. And that is really why we became a city, was to get our own school.
It's the kind of community caring that has, for the past 60 years, been at the heart of the Falls Church City Public Schools.
Well, we wanted a good system, but I think that when it came down to it, that none of us really realized that it was going to be as good as it was, as it is.
I wanted to let you all know briefly about a new organization that is forming to support our school system. It's called the Falls Church Way, and we're a group of parents, teachers, and community members who love and cherish our small school system. We love our teachers, and we love our paraprofessionals and our principals, our custodians, our bus drivers. These are the people who take care of our children on a day-to-day basis.
And I love the fact that we have independent, inclusive, and community-based schools.
Since when do Falls Church City schools simply meet a requirement? For as long as I've been here, our expectations have always exceeded those that are required by the state. That is what makes our schools special. That is the Falls Church City way.
We need to work together to create a culture in our schools that promotes open, honest communication and respect between all members of the school community. One where questions and diverse opinions are welcomed, solicited, and encouraged from all stakeholders. That change in culture needs to start here and begin with all of you.
We see problems facing our principals, teachers, paraprofessionals, support staff, and our students, and the erodement of the aforementioned Falls Church Way.
I've heard a lot about the Falls Church Way, and I haven't seen it lately, and it is disturbing. Don't play politics with our teachers.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Haleko, principal of Mount Daniel. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you this evening about the budget shortfall that threatens Mount Daniel and the very impactful choices that will need to be made. Many of the $912,000 cuts to the FY17 budget were requests that had been included in the budget the school board sent forward to the City Council. But much to my surprise, included in this list was the Mount Daniel Assistant Principal, a position that has been serving the school for 6 years. This decision was made without the courtesy of a discussion prior to the announcement, nor were pros and cons entertained. Mount Daniel, and every one of these very collaborative efforts thrives on teachers' participation and is what has made Mount Daniel the success it is in teaching and learning.
All right, Kathy, in fairness to everyone else, we need to hold you to 3 as well. I'm sorry.
I have these remarks in paper form. I've given one to each board member.
Which we have.
My biggest concern is that Aaron, Kelly, and I both sent some suggestions to the board that these cuts need to be more evenly distributed among all of the buildings, and we see that as something that could be done through salary. So please take a moment to read the other things that I have mentioned because they're all important.
Okay, thank you.
I was shocked last week to hear that Mrs. Haleko, our wonderful principal of Mount Daniel, who oversees the school that nurtures our children in kindergarten and first grade, was not consulted at all before a proposal was made to eliminate the assistant principal position at her school. We only have 4 principals, And all of them are kind, professional, and easy to meet with. And I wrote that before I knew they were going to be here. Even 5-year-olds enjoy meeting with Mrs. Haleko. She is one of the nicest people in town, and she is a leader who should never be left out of the loop. I left the meeting last week with serious concerns about who else is being left out of the loop and what other decisions are being made without appropriate data.
I'm here representing the Mount Daniel Digital Learning Team. The members of the DLT have chosen as a committee to address some topics and questions that have arisen during recent school board discussions. You've discussed that elementary staff, particularly those of us at Mount Daniel, vetted several technology-based reading programs and ultimately chose a program called iStation for our students. This is indeed the case, but please note that we were asked to explore new programs out of necessity due to the fact that Mount Daniel's computer lab was being removed. Prior to that time, Mount Daniel students used a program called Waterford Early Learning, and a program that was beloved by students, teachers, and parents. Although teachers felt this program was the best option for Mount Daniel students, the software wasn't available yet for iPads, and there was no option to maintain the school's computer lab and continue its use.
Our teachers are what built this school system, and we need to put them first. And I want to be clear, this issue of teacher morale, it's not all about salaries and money. It's about real inclusion in decisions before they are made. It's about respect, fair treatment, and trust. Things need to change, and I and others stand ready to do whatever it takes to have full line item transparency in budgets, accountability of leadership, and the return of a school system that values diversity of opinions and true dialogue about what the future of our schools should look like. Thank you.
However, the importance of tonight was not lost upon me, and that is why I stand in solidarity not only with the parents of this community, but in particular the teachers of this community. I spent a lot of today trying to figure out how I would address this body. Would I talk about educational standards across this country and public schools that are challenged across this country? Would I talk about my experiences as a parent with stellar teachers like Shane Spindle, who is here tonight, on through to Laura Dixon and Miriam Schmoller, and now Rob Carey. I'm blessed to have a child who gets to go to school and learn from these educators and experience other educators across her day. It is no great mystery the power of teachers and the influence they have on our children's lives.
Our teachers are our schools. In Falls Church City, our teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff are consistently talented, professional, smart, hardworking, and dedicated. For the best use of my 3 minutes, I will refer to all of them collectively as teachers. When they think about their school experiences, my children do not pay much attention to whether the school buildings they enter and exit are new and shiny or vintage, but they care about their teachers, they know their teachers, and they will remember their teachers forever. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. Our teachers deserve a lot more than a corsage, a cup of coffee, and a thank you note this week. Let's appreciate our teachers by giving them back all the prep time they need to be fully prepared to do a great job educating and caring for our children. Let's appreciate our teachers by giving them back a meaningful and substantive role in developing their curriculums and schedules. Let's appreciate our teachers by compensating them well and by giving them all the resources and support that they need to continue to do amazing work for the children and for our community.
I just want to say one thing, that your job is very hard, and I don't envy it, but I want you to know that we are happy to give you information whenever you need it. That you just have to call on us. We will be happy to expand on things. You can't know all this. I'm glad you asked about PYP, because we've been learning about it for years and it's still hard. So honestly, please call on us, because I'm sure you have questions, and we are happy to support you.
Finally, the DLT would like to clarify, did that just get louder? Its request for technology at Mount Daniel in general. We would happily give up hardware or software additions or existing costs if it meant that our school could keep or gain a teacher, para, assistant principal, or any other personnel. With the exception of STAR testing that's mandated by central office, there are no educational needs for a particular student to iPad ratio. When we're asked if we'd like more devices, the answer is that yes, it'd be nice and maybe more convenient, but the crux of the opinion formed by the Mount Daniel DLT is that there's no technology, no hardware or software that should come at a cost of personnel. One more line. Human capital is far more important to teaching these young children than any form of technology could be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNamara. Could we please, we have a lot to cover this evening, so please refrain from making noise. This is a work session, and we have a lot to cover tonight. During work sessions, we usually do not have public comment. However, given that we are working in our work session tonight on the budget, on issues of concern to the community, we are going to have public comment even during our work session. In accordance, again, I would just simply say that given that we are here for the purpose of a budget discussion and we have a lot to discuss, I would respectfully ask that you help us with that issue. I noticed there were some Cub Scouts outside. I don't know if they're going to come in and watch the meeting, but I would also urge you to comment as constructively and politely as possible, not just because there might be Cub Scouts here, but because I think it's possible to make your points and to do so politely.
I came here tonight planning on listening to a thoughtful discussion on the school board budget, and that all changed when I heard your opening remarks, Mr. Castillo. Your opening statement that public comment is not usually allowed at a work session insinuates that these people in the audience have nothing better to do than waste your time is frankly insulting. People are here because they care. I have no doubt that the majority of the people here would rather be watching the Caps game, being home with their families, or possibly grading papers and planning. Let's work to take away this attitude of us and them, and instead start with a comment like, welcome, I'm glad you're here, thank you for coming, I'm interested to see what you have to say.
Madam, if I may respond, I wanted to make the point that work sessions, and you can look at the Virginia Department, the Virginia Board of Education, the City Council, for example, do not. Mr. Hoff, you are now disrupting our meeting, Mr. Hoff.
Tuesday of every month is when the school board meets.
Mr. Hoff, please. As I was saying, if you go to the City Council work sessions, you will not find opportunity for public comment. If you go to the Virginia Board of Education during work sessions, you will not find opportunity for public comment. We realize the importance of this to the community, and therefore, we are holding public comment. At the same time, we have a budget that we have to pass, and we have a work session, and we do the public comment, but we also have to do our work session. And so, it is out of respect for the community that this was done, and I am disappointed that people would misconstrue that as being somehow insulting.
I am absolutely shocked at the email responses I have read from our central office staff to one of our parent community members who was just asking questions.
According to FCCPS School Board Bylaws, Bylaw 2.19, titled Board Staff Communications, and I quote, "The Falls Church City School Board supports and encourages the concept of two-way communication between the board and employees," end quote. The bylaw reads further, end quote, "The school board desires to develop and maintain the best possible working relationship with the employees of the school division. The board welcomes the viewpoints of employees and shall allow time at its meetings for employees to be heard, end quote. Just last Tuesday, Mount Daniel Principal Kathy Aleko was not allowed by Mr. Lawrence to exceed the 3-minute time allotment when providing information regarding the elimination of the assistant principal position during public comment. During her comments, she informed the school board that she had not been consulted by Dr. Jones as to the feasibility or impact of eliminating the critical assistant principal position at Mount Daniel. One would think that the superintendent and school board would be eager to get Ms. Haleko's insight and appreciate that despite her pending retirement, she chose to attend the work session and share her prepared written comments. She should have been allowed to complete her comments, and the members of the school board should have welcomed the opportunity to ask her a few questions or taken the opportunity to thank her for her many years of truly dedicated service that she's given to the city. She deserved far better. The disrespect and complete arrogance shown to Ms. Haleko is and was deplorable. Thank you.
I guess the first question is a good one, and that is, what is it that we are trying to do? What are our goals with this?
One thing a climate survey does is give you very good data about what teachers and other employees think about what they do they have enough planning time, what is satisfying them, what is dissatisfying them, are they actually concerned more with money or with time off, how do we balance things if it's, a environment. The second question is effectiveness. And this goes to why I think, while this is sometimes called an employee survey, I've always called it much more, a climate survey. I would like it to see broader than just a straight climate survey. Not that I want to get into the nooks and crannies of multiple smaller programs, but one of the real values of a survey is it gives you real actionable data about what the majority of employees of the school system feel. And so it can help you make judgments about program effectiveness far better than less analytically rigorous surveys would.
But which raises a question. If we're, and one of the questions, going back to this, is what is it that we're trying to do?
In particular, where there is at least a perception of a need for more transparency, I think a broad survey that tells everyone about what's going on and how people think about their jobs is going to be very critical so we can improve ourselves on an annual basis.
But what are we, in terms of outcomes, how do we know where we're trying to get? What does success look like as an end state? So what are we steering towards as a result of this exercise? Well, I guess if our ultimate goal is to produce a high quality K-12 education, how does this fit with that? How do we, what's the nexus between satisfaction, improvements, and educational outcomes?
Well, that I can easily answer. The first thing is that teacher turnover reduces the experience of your staff and is also costly, so it can impair the ability to have good education. There's also plenty of statistical evidence showing that happy teachers are better teachers. So I think the survey is directly tied to educational outcome in several regards.
But are we, that raises a good point, are we just looking at climate, or are we doing a programmatic evaluation?
I think they're intertwined. I think whether teachers are happy is directly tied to the things that they're doing every day. So we can't just ask, how do you feel safe at school? Are you happy at school? You have to ask why. Why do you feel this way? And I would advocate also for unlimited comment fields. Yes. So let people just say.
Open question.
That wasn't the end. But unlimited comment fields to let people say, here is why I'm happy or why I'm not happy, and you can even say, what programs are driving your satisfaction or your dissatisfaction, and let people explain.
But, let's say SOLs. What do you think of SOLs?
Well, that's not a very good question.
We're talking about doing a climate survey versus a program effectiveness survey. I think that additional layer adds tremendous complexity because.
But just
now-
adding the comment field gives you space to talk about programmatic stuff, even
Well,
if you
but
don't
you-
assign the
but-
questions around it, right?
but-
I think that they let people say, this question doesn't address my concerns. My answer is not here. You've given me
Well-
three answers, and my
But then
answer's
let's
not
ask
here.
those questions.
But you can't read people's minds, so maybe, unless we are, I don't know that we can afford a survey that is so detailed that it lets us anticipate anything that someone might want to tell us. So whether you do anything, whether you say these comments are going to be part of our, statistical validation of the survey is a whole nother issue. You can just have them. Just let people talk. Just let them express themselves.
I mean, I think that we have done that, but if this is something annually we're going to do, I think it needs to be much more thoughtful than just open comment boxes, because I just think it can do more damage than anything else.
Why don't we just call it a survey of what we want to find out?
Well, but that's
Yes, that's the biggest question.
What is it?
I don't understand what climate is. Is it the weather?
But what are we trying to do?
Yeah.
Because the end will depend on the beginning.
So in my mind, we're trying to find out what our teachers think of the school, the programs. Am I on the right track here?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Let's get away from the acronyms and the names and just ask them the question.
The survey shall include but not be limited to the level of satisfaction with and feedback on salary, benefits, working conditions, planning time, requirements, evaluations, facilities, management, support needs, and level and allocation of resources.
Well, but garbage in, garbage out is also what I'm always saying.
Thank you.
I am not disturbed by the challenge of this community to grapple with where and how and when. I am not afraid of the debates about technology use or all of the valid conversations that come from a small, educated community. What I am challenged with today and why I am here is that the vitriol level that I have experienced over the last 4 years, every budget season, as baseball starts, the vitriol kicks in this community in a way that's not only disturbing, but detrimental. It's detrimental to this word community. It doesn't only impact the adults. It impacts what's happening inside our school walls. People are human. Our teachers are human. This is their livelihood.
And then there's this vitriolic discussion that goes on in the community. You're either for tax increases or you're against teachers. You're for tax increases or you're against new school buildings. It creates a sense of division. It creates a sense of anger. It creates a sense of acrimony. And it's really all nonsense.
I came to the school board work session last week to speak in support of our talented and dedicated teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff. During the work session, I was surprised and concerned to hear members of the school board have to ask for what seemed like very basic and important data regarding current and previous year's spending. I would have thought that current, accurate, detailed data on spending and funding would be at the table in front of every member of the board in sufficient detail for these important discussions and as well made available to citizens as a routine matter.
So something else that I brought up before that I don't see on here is a reduction in the leadership step. And I've said this before, we're asking our teachers to take a cut, we're cutting our topped-out bonuses for our staff, and I don't disagree that everybody in the system works hard, including our leadership, and I've said this before, you lead from the front, and I'm willing to give up my salary if our leadership is also willing to take a cut, and I think that got lost in what happened last week, and it turned into city council needs to give up their salaries. That was not my point. My point was that if we're going to ask our lowest paid people to take a cut, we should also ask our highest paid to take a cut.
Well, I think more to the point,
And I keep seeing that as a zero on here.
right, but we also need.
I'm fortunate to work with a group of paras who are so dedicated to their students and teaching partners that they will stay as long as it takes to get the work done. This is why you will rarely see the parking lot at Mount Daniel empty at day's end. Please value this dedication and loyalty by removing the option of losing 2 more days and reinstating the 8-hour day. We are some of the lowest paid employees in the school system, so it will only take, in total, $10,000 to restore the 8-hour day to every kindergarten para. Thank you.
I don't agree with the reducing one paraprofessional day. I think that takes money away from the most vulnerable and least well-paid people in our school system. I think our paraprofessionals already give way more than they're paid for, and I won't vote for a budget that reduces a paraprofessional day. I just won't.
One does not rip the heart out of the living organism you are trying to support. The last cuts that are made are to the classrooms and teachers. I am speaking in particular to proposal of class size increase in the elementary years and the elimination of the Mount Daniel vice principal. The spring budget season is an annual event in our town of finger-pointing, blaming, and number crunching, and of particular stress to those involved with the schools. But the reasons of this are multifactorial. A lack of trust, lack of transparency, tight budgets, fund balance numbers, comparisons to other jurisdictions, just to name a few. Scare tactics and bullying to make your point now after the final decision is futile and detrimental to a school culture already in steady decline. Please do not insult me by asking me to partake by clicking and moving your already proposed budget cuts around on a screen. I want more choices. Ask the teachers where the amount of roughly $900,000 out of $47-ish million should come from. Maybe start by adding the step salary increases in central office to the chopping block budget simulator. How about reducing the overly abundant use of technology and therefore some annual costs associated with it? Trust me, the support behind reducing iPad usage in elementary school and eliminating personal computers in middle school might just surprise you. What about the continual use of standardized testing I see in elementary schools? My son just told me today he took another one. These are examples of hidden costs that are not shown on the line item budget made available to the public.
We get the same list of choices, but we don't get to add anything to it. So I can say, why don't we see about cutting the MYP coordinator? Why don't we see about reducing leadership staff? But I don't get that back in here. It does not come back to me on this list. It doesn't go out to the parents in the community on the budget tool. And I think that presents us with a false choice, and it looks like you're saying, here's the only things you get to cut, and it's what I say you get to cut. So I have a hard time listening to people say the school board's crafting this budget, because I don't think we're crafting a budget. I think we're being told what we can take and put in and out of the budget.
Part of a community that deeply values high-quality public education. I want our school district to be run well. Appropriate data need to be available for decision-making. All the important voices need to be at the table when decisions are made. Our tax dollars need to be treated appropriately, not frivolously. Resources need to be utilized wisely, and decisions need to be made in a prudent, rational way using the best available information. Just as we parents entrust our teachers and school personnel with our children every day, we as citizens entrust you, members of the school board, to ensure that our school district is run with integrity, in a professional, responsible, sensible, ethical manner. Your oversight role is a crucial one. Please step up to the plate. Please ask all the needed questions.
At Mount Daniel, we are, of course, full steam ahead, getting ready for summer, and that will be all the big work will come ahead, and the demo is what comes first there. I was at the McLean Citizens Association last Thursday, and that went very well. We had a member of Fairfax County was there from Fairfax County Planning, and then also from the VDOT, and really did most of the talking in support of the project that we had gone over and above to provide everything they'd asked for, enrollment projections for 25 years, where normally they wouldn't even get that, what our busing looks like, and so they were able to really carry a lot of the load for Grundley and Arcadis that night, just because they said we were meeting every requirement, and there was no reason that their staff in Fairfax County would not recommend approval at the 2232. So that was a very, very positive meeting. It was a late meeting, but it was very positive.
Mr. Miliaccio?
I'll be brief because Mr. Oldfielder made my point. You lost me with your credibility at the very end, telling us that the extent is nothing. You're doubling the size of square footage. You're doubling the school age population. And then you don't show us anything, no rendering, nothing to look at. And all you say is, we're not doing it that much. Trust us. I don't until I see the rendering. And I'm with Mr. De La Fay. The extent is bothering me for what it is now for square footage and school population, especially as it impacts Fairfax County residents.
I guess my question is more, have we spoken to the president of the Citizens Association? Has that individual told us exactly what their concerns are, and have we said to them, have we addressed it in this plan? Or are we just going off of what we heard in the main meeting from last year and hoping that this is going to work?
Well, I have not yet, but I will be doing that because we can't go to the Planning Commission again with that as a question mark, hoping that it's going to be enough. I mean, that dialogue, what you're looking for, has not happened as I stand here tonight, but it will be happening over the next several weeks.
Just one more question regarding, let's say, relationships, because this is really what it boils down to. Was your firm involved with the first 2232?
No.
No. Because frankly, I was surprised to hear that you have not yet met with the folks of the McLean Association.
Probably the last question that I get is, what is this costing the city? You know, when we're sitting still, and how much have we spent? As of right now, it's cost us nothing as far as where we are today. The bond is really, I'm going to say it's not movable, but it could be, but with great difficulty, it really is for that property. Question 17, Lisa and I really kind of grappled with this. We just wondered if teachers really know how much plan time they have, how many would actually kind of calculate it or would kind of keep up with how many minutes per week on average do they get. And you'll see it is all over the place, which is not really where it is. It's pretty consistent in most of our buildings, but this is an area that we want to add to the planning factors that we have not had. I should say, I really want to get it in either the planning factors or in our decision matrix, where we know that if you're in elementary, this is how many hours or minutes of plan you would expect, and if you're in secondary, this is what you would expect, so we can get consistent there. We have not been consistent, and it's interesting, this kind of shows that in that they're not even really sure how many minutes they have, or some of them are vastly different.
While we face incredible challenges for the future, in the present, we have wonderful schools, dedicated public servants on council, school board, and committees, fantastic teachers, city staff and police who work through blizzards and other difficult situations, a plethora of businesses and families who invest time and money in our community, and so much to treasure here in this little city. It is not merely the results of these challenges we face that are important, but the journey we take to reach those results. We have a tremendous opportunity today to show our students, our future leaders, how to tackle the challenges we face in the budget and building construction issues, to live within our means, to support a diverse community full of many different opinions, to have enough for today and to plan for the future. It is with this lesson in mind, recognizing the additional expenses and challenges the schools and city will face in the near future, that I urge the council and the school board to set an example as to both the substance and the tone of discussions around the budget, an example that my children and all the children in Falls Church will be proud of.
I'm just excited, and I just thank God working here with the Falls Church. You don't know how much I care about. See, to me, it's about relationship with the people that you work with. Doesn't matter how small you are and how the title you are, doesn't mean nothing. We're here if we have a purpose, is to do the best you can for the students, the beautiful kids in the school. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm so nervous. I don't know what to say. But I'm just excited, and I am blessed today. Because, see, yesterday is gone, and tomorrow I don't know. So I'm going to enjoy this moment. You know, we have to enjoy them. We have to embrace our life. Think about it. Embrace it. I want to encourage my teachers. Keep doing what you're doing. Shine in that little classroom with the student. You know you're the best. Each individual are the best. Each teacher, they hire you to do a job, and you're doing the best. I'm just blessed.